Hello and welcome. The Call of Duty Major 2 has now concluded. LTA Split 2 has some big changes for League of Legends now that we are embracing the Fearless Draft. VCT Americas has kicked off, as are ongoing matches for the BLAST Open Series. There's a lot going on in esports. Let's dive into it. Welcome to Today in Esports. Welcome to Today in Esports. My name is Eli the Ninja. Propercast not with us today, unfortunately, but you got me instead. Of course, we've got the great Chris, as always. How you doing today, Chris?
I'm great. We had a plethora of matches happening this weekend, so I'm ready to jump into it. But of course, I'm glad to have you here with me as well. But speaking about that, Call of Duty, the Optic Texas Major has concluded, so let's go ahead and jump right into that, and we'll start with Thursday's matches. The CDL Major 2 in Texas kicked off on Thursday in a quick day, all things be told, but there were some interesting results. On the opening day of majors in the winners round number 1, Vancouver 3-0'd the Carolina Ravens, Cloud9 3-0'd Toronto Ultra, Atlanta Faze 3-0'd Minnesota Rocker, and most surprisingly, the Boston Breach took the series over Atlanta Thieves 3-1. No one, and I mean no one, could have predicted this. Boston had to fight hard just to be in the upper bracket after their last qualifier match versus the Miami Heretics, even to get that 8th seed. This is where they were supposed to get in the winner's bracket, take one loss, get to lower bracket, and then start making their run. But it was simply not all that. Both hard points were decided by a combined 28 points in the search by 2 rounds. Yeah, Boston got blown out of the water in the control as expected versus the Thieves, who are the best control team in the game. But the other map wins were down to the wire, and Boston looked really polished. Hydra dropping a 0.7 on map 1 on Hacienda, losing 230 to 250, and a 0.81 on Skyline, losing 242 to 250. And this team was sticking together post EWC and going into the Black Ops 6 season, especially Snoopy. We never got to get a true feel for this team's potential until now. Boston said, "We will win the series 3-1 and send the number 1 seed, Minor 2 champion LA Thieves, to the lower bracket to face the Heretics." It was a beatdown through and through, awakening on the winning map at a 1.47 KD with the majority of the hill time for Boston, but it was Snoopy's show. He did everything we expected from the franchise Frog with a 1.19 KD across the entire series, player of the match, no doubt. But could Boston remain consistent throughout the rest of the tournament? We'll have to see.
And then we move into Friday, the first elimination day. If a team was outside of the top 8 in standings from the qualifiers, they started in the lower bracket, as we listed previously. They are all now pitted against each other. LA Thieves are now under the scope. The number 1 seed in the lower bracket lost to the 8th seed. The way they did is rare. They would send Heretics home, followed by Carolina in a 3-0 fashion over the Falcons. The hosting hometown team Optic getting a massive ovation during their 3-0 win versus Minnesota, and Toronto getting past LA Guerrillas M8 pretty handily. As mentioned, this day would end with the LA Thieves continuing their lower bracket run and ending the Ravens' flight as the 2 top-seeded teams faced one another in the second round of the lower bracket, where the Thieves won 3-0, and it wasn't close. 250 to 65 Vault hardpoint, 6-1 on Hacienda's Search and Destroy, and a 3-1 Vault Control. Thieves were back in championship form. But what about Carolina? They were getting highly regarded as a top seed going into the past major, but are amidst the fall-off with player Gwyn being a non-starter to aid the team's efforts here, dropping a 0.7 overall across the 3 maps. Which was the opposite for LA Thieves with their green carpet. Loudmouth Scrap would go 63-40 across the series with the most damage in the lobby. Optic's win versus Minnesota felt hollow. It was a 3-0, sure, but this was Minnesota at their worst. Nero and Paul just could not shoot back, and despite Rocker's Geo trying his butt off map 1 with a 1.79 KD hard carrying with damage alone, the game was still only decided by 18 points. Skies dropped a 0.45 map 1 and a 0.74 throughout the series. Caesar was grabbing hill time, sure, but Optic are going to need more time to adjust with this new player clearly.
Moving on to Saturday, better known as Moving Day, it sets up the top four and eliminates more teams while preparing us, the fans, for the winners' finals and the teams left in the tournament for what could be the taste of Championship Sunday. The day started off with the hometown team Optic going against the Major 1 hosting team Toronto Ultra. Both teams coming off a 3-0 win versus LA Gorilla Mates and the Minnesota Rockers the day previously. Greenwall fans were hopeful, but this series would not be close as Toronto won 3-0 handedly. Skies played better individually here than in their match against Minnesota, but Pred would be the only member of Optic to go positive with a 1.05 across the series. Beans was eating it up, playing the villain. The guy is clearly class and enjoys playing on the main stage. Player of the match by far with a 1.29 overall KDA and a 1.24 in HP, 3.33 in search and destroy, and a 1.0 in control. He was on fire. As already mentioned, the Green Wall needs more time to adjust to the new roster move and as well as the new team dynamic, but we remain hopeful as Optic get top 8 at home at the same venue they won champs in the season previously. Saturday rolled on with Vancouver and Atlanta guaranteeing Sunday in top 3 with their 3-1 wins over Boston Breach and Cloud9. This meant the round 1 winners match opponents were now flipped. Cloud9 versus LA Thieves, Toronto Ultra versus Boston Breach. Boston Breach beat LAT 3-1 and Cloud9 had beat Toronto 3-0 previously. But this was a full-bore round 1 losers run for both LA Thieves and the Toronto Ultra as they 3-0'd the hopes and dreams of both the Breach and C9 to make it to Championship Sunday. Boston did play Toronto close on Skyline Hardpoint Map 1, and C9 played LA Thieves close on the Skyline Search and Destroy 5-6 and Protocol Control 2-3. Alas, both the orgs and teams should feel happy with their Major 2 run with their heads held high for the future. The top 4 were set in stone, all winners round 1 teams, and top 5 Cs. Atlanta Faze, Vancouver Surge, LA Thieves, and Toronto Ultra. The time to rest and iron your Championship Sunday jerseys were upon the competitors.
And then we move into Sunday. The lower semifinals would kick the day off with Toronto Ultra versus the LA Thieves. Following the miraculous round 1 win in losers, both Ultra and Thieves are pitted against one another. Bragging rights and a moment to prove yourself, especially for Envoy and Scrap for the Thieves, given they left Ultra to form this super team on Thieves coming up short last season, but also Joe Deceives and Beans for Ultra. Joe was Ghostly's duo last season, and they, on Thieves, got second at EWC, but Beans is supposed to be that slay-heavy, loudmouth AR flex in replacement of Scrap on his departure from the team. He was in this series, no doubt. Thieves got slammed. Within the first several moments of Protocol Map 1, Ultra was showing championship form with a hot start. Ghosty and Scrap were trying to lay down damage for their subs to move up, but Ultra's comms were so clean and team shots even better as they won the map 250 to 115. Beans dropped a 1.41 KD, Insight 1.67, and Joe Deceives 1.53. They were absolutely slaying out. Envoy, on the other side of things, dropped a 0.54, one of his lowest KDs we have ever seen. Red carpet for Thieves. Map 2 took us to Hacienda, where they should feel confident on, given they beat the Ravens on it 6-1 the day before. But it's an apparent pocket pick for Ultra, as it's the first time we've seen them play it during Minor 2, where they beat Optic on it 6-5. Ultra were flowing like water, so much that they won the map with only Joe going positive at 1.14. While the two teams were trading rounds back and forth for 7 in a row, Ultra continued to heat up and showcased just how icy they were, regardless of the numbers. Beans would win a 1v2 early in round 2, a 2v4 later, and double kills, but Ultra was making the number 1 seed look like flukes, as Scrap would have 3 first bloods and a 1.83 KD in this map for the loss. But Control was next, and that was Thieves' wheelhouse. Couldn't be any more wrong. Unstoppable force meet momentum. This was LA Thieves' first loss on Protocol. This was their first loss on this map mode the entire season, and they lost it 0-3. The Masters of the Spawn Trap could not fully fight back and were just completely deflated as their Major 2 run would come to an end. With a 1.47 overall KD, Joe Deceives was the player of the match. Let's go on to winners finals. Atlanta Faze versus Vancouver Surge. The trilogy complete. This would be the third time these two would meet in a best of 5 during this stage. Week 1 of the qualifiers, round 2 of minor 2, and now in the winners finals of major 2. The biggest difference is the local area network. No online this time. Vancouver is ahead in this head-to-head from the above matches by splitting the hardpoints and taking both search and destroy and the controls from Faze. This only reached map 5 because of the opposite. Atlanta would Neslo Vancouver, winning 3-2 by losing the hardpoints by a steep margin but winning the red card map 2 6-4. The protocol control 3-1 and getting by the protocol map 5 in round 11. The first and only map 5 of the entire weekend, Faze would be grand finals bound and finally get their back versus their boogeyman of Vancouver. Celium, consistent as ever, would be the player of the match. The only player on Faze with a positive KD in the entire series, mostly because of the slaying dispersion in the hardpoints. He drops a 1.17 KD. Vancouver were so close to completing the run to make it to grand finals, but came up short. They seemed so defeated by their losses. This is where it helps to have World Championship coach and former player Rambo Ray on your team to talk you through the process to lock back in, because you're staying on the main stage now to face Toronto. The last time these two teams met was in a similar situation back during minor tournament in the semifinal where Surge won a competitive 3-0. Much like the last meeting, this one would also be a grueling match, at least for the start of the series. Double dose of Protocol to start the series. Protocol Hardpoint has been a great map mode for Vancouver at this stage. They've only lost it once, and it was against Miami. That was apparent here in how rehearsed they looked on it. Nasty and especially Abusa for Surge were shooting nukes from their guns, and it was setting up Neptune to constantly be an annoyance. Nasty would have a 1.39 KD in map 1 with Abusa just shy of 5,000 damage would help Vancouver take a 1-0 lead with a 250-239 win. Protocol Search and Destroy was map 2 during minor 2 between these two. Vancouver won then, and Toronto would win it this time. They lost round 11 to Cloud9 in the winners round back on day 1, but haven't played it since the beginning of this tournament. Toronto dominated the first blood game. Going back-to-back rounds plus a 1v1 from Beans doesn't hurt either. But Beans was fighting with a 1.86 KD in the map with 2,000 damage across 10 rounds. Toronto tied up the series 1-1. Map 3 took us to Vault, which Vancouver has been flawless on all weekend. That was felt in the first round with Neptune running around like a madman post maps 1 and 2. Nep would get control early, and Vancouver was off to a rocket hot start. That momentum would continue to have the Surge ahead now by 2 rounds after converting an offense round that started then a defense. Felt like they were poised to take the swing map in mode and take this series. Ultra would get a hold of their own at least for a round 4, but this is where things would end as Toronto were forced to convert an offense of their own. You could feel the pressure of the round as Toronto were fighting hard to get to round 5. Round 4 went down to a 4v5 with only a single segment needed to push a round 5. The problem with Vault Control B zone for the offense was trying to stay alive with the spawners on defense, getting into top art, the head glitch high ground position that overlooks the zone you're trying to capture that's very difficult to access as the offensive team. Vancouver were now up 2-1 and would ride that momentum train right through Hacienda, where it felt like Toronto had just run out of steam. Clean X and Insight would go for a combined 30 and 54, 0.55 and 0.57 KDs respectively. And the only player to go positive on the map for Ultra would be Beans with a 1.20 KD. It was a green carpet of KDs for Surge as they won map 4 250-149 and would get their rematch with Faze in the grand finals. Neptune would be the player of the match with a 1.29 overall KD and a 1.43 in the Search and Destroy, albeit Surge losing, Neptune was in top form. But Ultra should feel really good about this outcome. A full losers bracket run plus a 3-0 win versus LA Thieves is nothing to scoff at. With 2 more events remaining, we could see Toronto in a grand final if they play their best on Championship Sunday.
And this is it, grand finals, Atlanta Faze versus the Vancouver Surge, the remastered final cut. Vancouver is coming off a back-to-back series on the main stage that should feel comfortable and should be a lot warmer than Faze on the reintroduction of an opponent they have beaten twice online and just took to a map 5 previously. But the Faze was looking to go back-to-back LAN champions with EWC Major 1 and now onto Major 2. It felt like there was nothing left in the tank for Surge. They couldn't get much momentum started, even on map modes they have previously beaten Faze on. Atlanta is still obliged to ego challenge them on these picks and almost felt like proving a point. Every single map that Faze won in the series, Vancouver had taken off of them in an online series. Map 1, Protocol Hardpoint, this was LBZ's and Cilium's show and the eye-opening experience. I'm sure for the Surge, this was real and you are facing a world-class team in the grand finals they need to lock in. But the Surge could not, as they would lose map 1 250 to 193 while Cilium would drop just shy of 4k damage and LBZ would have a 1.55 KD across the first map. Faze lead by 1. Skyline Search and Destroy seemed like a good place to reset yourself if you're the Surge, would be if Faze would let you breathe. 6-1 was the map scoreline, and Cilium had dropped 11 kills and just 2 deaths. That's a 5.50 KD, while Albizi was also double positive at 6-3. Charles had a 4 engagements and going 3-1. Where are Vancouver? Nasty went 1-6. That's not going to cut it. The 3v4 to set up the map ends. Faze now lead by 2. Protocol Control, a familiar map mode for Vancouver from this stage, and again, a map you played Faze on before for this mode. An almost must-need map win early for the Surge. To be fair, they brought it back to round 5 in some heroic fashion, but there were some real cool spots here that just showed that the different cloth Faze are cut from. Cilium shooting a Hellstorm out of the sky in a 3-piece followed by ejecta play has to be the most trailer-like sequence I've seen in all year. Every time Vancouver stepped to play at Faze's level, Atlanta would rise the bar again and again. Round 5 offense, no problem, now Faze lead by 3. Full-on deflation from this point by Vancouver. They were not getting past how confident all of Faze were. Atlanta knew they were going to win it all here and going on from the trilogy run LAN Championships, and thus they did. Cilium, Draza, and Simp all dropped massive numbers in the 250 to 137 map 4 win on Hacienda to add yet another trophy to the cabinet for the Atlanta Faze, as now they go to back LAN Championship wins. Cilium was undoubtedly the MVP of the series and the event with a 5.5 KD in the map. Cilium had a 1.72 in the grand finals and so many clutch moments along the way.
And that's going to do it for our recap of the Call of Duty Major number 2. Congratulations to the Atlanta Faze for their W. This was a crazy tournament, so many twists and turns. But with that said, let's go ahead and jump into League of Legends.
Great, and so many changes we have for League. LTA has had some format changes going into split number 2. EMEA will begin their split number 2 going into this weekend. And we have some news from Doublelift, who is at the airport. Let's go ahead and jump right into it.
The LTA has seen format changes in response to Fearless Draft being permanently added to comp. Let's take a look at all these changes.
As stated previously this week in an introduction video on the format changes, Split 2 has seen some adjustments. Weeks 1 through 3 will now be a positioning phase in a single round robin best of 1 to create standings for 2 groups of 4. Now this is where the big change comes in. With Fearless Draft being implemented, we want to see more best of 3s to show off that Fearless Draft. Weeks 4 through 6 will be a group phase where each group will have a single round robin best of 3. The groups will be constructed using a stake system based on the rankings from the positioning phase earlier. Now moving on to week 7, there will be a cross-group battle where the top 2 teams will play for seeding and the bottom 2 teams will play in an elimination match with the 7th and 8th seed being eliminated. This will lead into a top 6 full Fearless playoff bracket where all games will be now a best of 5. The LTA North champions will be qualified for the MSI bracket stage and the Esports World Cup, and then the runner-up will only qualify for the Esports World Cup. The LTA South champions will qualify for the MSI play-in stage as well. But there has also seen some changes, but we'll take a closer look at that after MSI.
LEC starts this weekend, and LEC road trips have been announced for the spring. Let's take a look more into what will go on in the spring split.
To recap, the format for LEC will start with a single round robin group stage where all games will be played as a best of 3. Then the top 6 teams will move for a qualifier for the playoff stage where all games will now be a best of 5 with the champion qualifying for MSI bracket stage and the Esports World Cup, and then the runner-up will qualify for the play-in stage at MSI as well as the Esports World Cup. Now for some exciting news, the LEC is taking to the road in the spring. On April 26th and 27th, MKOI will be hosting the LEC in Madrid as they will face off against G2, Fnatic, and Giant X in the Madrid arena. On to May 10th and 11th, Carmine Corp will be hosting SK, G2, and their French rival team Vitality in Les Arenas. For information, click on the link below about how you can get tickets to these road trip matches. The LEC will also begin this weekend on the 29th, so drop your predictions on who you think will be crowned the LEC Spring Champion in the comments below. Doublelift has announced that his team near Airport will be competing in the NACL. They will be taking this fairly competitively as they will continue to scrim as long as doing everything on stream, much as the same as Los Ratones, but maybe not as hardcore as Los Ratones, as they've only said that they will scrim about 2 days a week while streaming everything else. But looking at it, we do see some familiar faces joining Doublelift, as he will have previous teammates Biofrost and Spica joining him in jungle and support, as well as mid laner Pobelter, as he had played on with the previous team prior to TSM. The new member will be added as PF Blade will be joining them in the top lane, so it'll be interesting to see how well these team kind of fares against other teams such as Winthrop and Luminosity Gaming, former Shopify Rebellion, who will also be competing in the NACL. Let us know what you think about Doublelift's team near Airport and if you're excited to see them stream their scrims as well as competing in the NACL. That wraps up League of Legends from over the weekend. Let us know what you're excited for, but let's go ahead and switch gears and take a look at VCT as the Americas region has just kicked off.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, VCT Americas has just kicked off, and we had some exciting matches over the weekend. Starting on Friday, the first matchup we got to see was Cloud9 versus NRG. Map 1 on Lotus, Som dropped a 24, 11, and 5 KD and a 218 ADR. NRG would start Lotus with 2 wins and finish the first half on defense 7-5. On swapping to attack, they would take their first 4 rounds, putting them up 11-5, and would limit Cloud9 to only 1 round in on defense, winning the map 13-6. Moving into map 2, Fracture, which was Cloud9's pick, Cloud9 would flip the script on their map pick. They would end the first half on defense with an 8-4 lead. Much like in the first game this time, Cloud9 would limit NRG to only 1 round on defense and finish the map 13-6 to even the series 1-1. In this game, Zeppa would lead the charge with a 22, 9, and 3 KDA and a 201 ADR on Tejo. Moving into map 3 on Pearl, the deciding game. C9 would continue their map 2 momentum on Pearl, starting with a strong 9-3 lead in the first half on defense. They would ward off the 9-3 curse, getting the 4 rounds needed to win the map, despite NRG putting up a good fight and winning 6 rounds on the second half in defense, making it the closest map of the series and ending in a 13-9 victory for Cloud9 to win the series 2-1. In this last game, Oxy would end the series with a 24, 16, and 3 KDA and a 193 ADR on Jet. Zappa, though, would be the player of the series, ending with a 50, 40, and 13 KDA and a 155.8 average ADR across the series, playing Tejo and Yoru. Into the next match was Crew versus Loud. Crew would win the series 2-1 versus Loud. After dropping map Fracture, Crew's map pick to Loud 3-13, they would turn the series around, winning Loud's map pick, Haven, 13-2, and in a close map 3, they would beat Loud 13-10 on the decider map split. Kesnit would have a standout performance, going 53, 38, and 13 with a 164 ADR across the series, playing champions Raze, Yoru, and Jet.
Moving on to Saturday, March 22nd, first match we have is G2 versus Furia. G2 would make their debut in the regional play after coming in second at Masters Bangkok, and despite seemingly needing to warm up a bit, which showed they were still in form after the international event. Map 1 Lotus was G2's pick in the first half. Furia would be in total control, winning 8 rounds in a row, all by gunfights. G2 would finally take back 2 rounds in rounds 9 and 10, with both Furia and G2 winning one more round in the half to end the first half 9-3 in favor of Furia. Upon switching sides, this 9-3 curse would strike once again when G2 were able to take the first 4 rounds of the half. After winning round 17, it would be all G2 winning 6 rounds straight to end the map 13-10. Violin would end the map with a 20, 16, and 8 KDA and a 155.7 ADR on the Omen. Now, map 2, Ascent, Furia's pick. G2 would win the pistol round, but Furia would win the next 3 rounds, giving them a 3-1 lead. G2 would finally find their stride to take the half 8-4 before switching to defense. G2 would again win the pistol round and get a defuse in round 14 before Furia were able to answer back with 2 rounds of their own. After trading rounds 17 and 18, G2 would find the final 2 rounds needed to win the map 13-7 and take a 2-0 series victory. Leaf would lead the map with a 21, 15, and 7 KDA and a 213.9 ADR on the Vice. Violin would lead the series with a 36, 26, and 14 KDA and a 135.8 ADR and played Omen on both maps. In the second series of the day, MIBR would take a 2-0 victory over Leviathan. MIBR would take a 13-7 victory on Leviathan's map pick split and then would also win their map pick Icebox 13-8. Arzen would lead the series with a 41, 33, and 15 KDA and a 165.9 ADR playing Breach and Arbor.
Going into Sunday, March 23rd, we would start with the matchup between 2G and EG. EG would win the 2G map pick Haven 13-11. Moving into the EG map pick Lotus, EG would find the series 2-0 victory after winning the map 13-8. Nature would end the series with a 37, 31, and 25 KDA and a 137.8 ADR playing Breach and Fade. Next matchup would be between Sentinels and 100 Thieves. Map 1, Pearl, Sentinels pick. Sentinels would win the pistol round, but then drop rounds 2 and 3 to 100 Thieves. Sentinels then found their groove on offense, finishing the first half 8-4. After winning rounds 13 and 14, Sentinels would limit 100 Thieves to only one more round win before winning the map 13-5. Celsius would have a strong performance on Vice with a 18, 10, and 3 KDA and a 142.4 ADR. Moving into map number 2, Haven, 100 Thieves pick. 100 Thieves would come out strong with 4 round wins, showing why Haven was their map pick, but Sentinels would battle back to ensure that the first half ended at an even 6-6. 100 Thieves would start the second half on offense with 5 round wins in a row, seeming like they would run away with the map. But Sentinels would show some resilience by winning rounds 18 through 20. Although it seemed like Sentinels had found some momentum on defense, 100 Thieves would close out the map in the next 2 rounds, ending the map 13-9 to tie the series 1-1. In this map 2, Cryocells would end the map with 24, 11, and 10 as his KDA with a 179.3 ADR. Moving into map number 3 on Split. Both teams were seemingly finding their groove on their own map picks, but now into map 3 had all the makings to be a close map to end the series, but Sentinels had decided they wanted to end the series with a bang. After winning the first 6 rounds, they would limit 100 Thieves to a round 7 win to be the only win for 100 Thieves on Split and would end the half 11-1 on defense. After winning the pistol round in round 13, Sentinels would end the series by next round by dominating Split 13-1 and winning the series 2-1. John QT would end the series with a 14, 6, and 6 KDA and a 170 ADR. Bang on the other side would end the series with 42 kills, 30 deaths, and 22 assists with a 139.4 ADR while playing Astra and Omen.
And that concludes the week number 1 for the Americas. Let's go ahead and take a look at VCT EMEA, which will begin this week as well. On March 26th, we'll see Vitality versus GX, BBL versus KC. On March 27th, we'll see Team Heretics versus APK, Boot versus Koi. On March 28th, we'll see Fnatic versus Na'Vi, and Team Liquid versus Sugeno Mates. Make sure you tune in on Thursday to get more information on this week's Americas matches, which will be beginning on Friday, March 28th.
Cannot wait to see those Valorant matches. You guys know how much I love Valorant, but Let's go ahead and jump into the Blast Open for everything happening for Counter-Strike 2. Let's start with Group A. In the upper bracket semifinals, Team Spirit would run into Mouz. Map 1 would take place on Dust 2, which was Spirit's pick. Spirit holds a 92% win rate on Dust 2 over the past 3 months, with 12 matches played on it. Spinks would get a 1 versus 2 clutch in the first round of the half to defuse the bomb and win the round. Going into round 6, Shiro would have a 1 versus 2 clutch on the terrorist side. The first half would end with Spirit up 9 rounds to 3. Spirit had a dominating performance where they won 9 rounds in a row. Going into the second half, Spirit would continue this trend and win the next 4 rounds to secure the victory. They would win 13 rounds to 3. Shiro would be the best player of map 1, getting 16 kills in just 5 deaths with an average of 94 damage per round. Moving into map 2, this would take place on Nuke, Mouz's map of choice, and they are known to do well on this map. Zontix would have a 1 versus 2 clutch moment on the CT side to retake and defuse the bomb. The first half would end with Mouz being up 7 rounds to 5. Spirit then would pull back the game to match point, but Mouz would win the last 2 rounds of the half to tie it up and force the map into overtime. During overtime on round 25, JimFat was able to win a 1 versus 2 clutch on the CT side before a plant situation. Mouz would be able to win in overtime and secure the map victory 16-13. Moving into map 3 would take place on Ancient, the final map with Spirit banning Train and Mouz banning Mirage. The first half of the map would be close. Spirit would start off strong with an early lead, converting their T-side pistol round into 3 additional wins. Mouz finally able to take an answer back and end the streak in a round 5 win with a site retake. They would then continue to battle back, winning 4 rounds in a row, bringing them back into the game. The first half would end close with 7-5, Spirit being up by 2 rounds. In the opening of the second half, Mouz would win the first pistol round, which they were able to turn into 2 more round wins to keep the game even. Spirit was able to finally win 3 rounds in a row themselves once they were able to get their economy stable and break Mouz. Spirit was able to get the game all the way to the match point, but Mouz was able to pull back and break Spirit's economy to tie the match and put it into overtime. In overtime, both teams would not take defeat and would push the game into 4 consecutive overtimes before the victor was chosen. In round number 36, Chopper would win in a clutch 1 versus 2 post-plant on CT. He would stick to a defuse after a trade with a member of Spirit. This would save the teams from losing and push it into another overtime. After much back and forth between the 2 teams, Mouz was finally able to win the map 25-22 in an insane match. Mouz wins the series 2-1, which pushed Spirit into the lower bracket, which was not expected and surprised many.
On Sunday, we got to see Virtus Pro versus Team Falcons in the lower brackets. Loser goes home. Both teams came into the game hot with previous wins against the Huns and Astralis. Map number 1 would take place on Mirage, Falcons' pick after Anubis and Nuke were both banned. We would see the first half take place like most games on Mirage, where this team on T side. This would be the Falcons take a strong lead going into the map as it is strongly T-sided. In round 11, we would see Flamus get a crazy 4-piece while defending the B side and pushing up Catwalk into the A connector. At the end of the first half, the Falcons would be up 9-3. With the side swap, the Falcons would only need 4 rounds to win to secure their victory. In the second half, the Falcons would win the pistol round after retaking the site and defusing the bomb, but would lose the next round in a crazy eco win by Virtus Pro. Then in round 15, we would see Kaisen win a 1 versus 2 clutch during the retake of a bomb site and defusing the bomb to secure a second round for the Falcons, putting them at 11 rounds and only needing 2 more to win map 1. Virtus Pro wouldn't make this easy, however, as they would win 7 rounds, but the Falcons were able to get the 2 rounds needed to win map number 1. Dexter would be the best player of the map, getting 20 kills and only 15 deaths. Now, moving on to map 2 on Ancient, Virtus Pro pick after the bans. During the first half, we would see a dominating CT side of the Falcons where they would win the pistol round and turn it into a 5-round winning streak before Virtus Pro was able to answer back. Virtus Pro was able to answer back with only 3 rounds in the first half, but we all know Ancient is one of the few CT-sided maps. First half ended 9-3 with the Falcons in the lead. With the side swap going into the second half, we would see Virtus Pro start to claw back and start winning some lost rounds from the first half. Virtus Pro would win the pistol round, which turned into 4 more rounds in the beginning before the Falcons were able to answer. The Falcons were able to put the game to match point, putting the score at 12-10, but Virtus Pro would pull off some great last rounds in the second half to tie it up and push the game into overtime. In overtime, Virtus Pro started off rough with only winning the first round and the Falcons winning the next 3 to put them at winning point in OT. However, Virtus Pro were able to wake up and able to win the next 2 rounds to push the game into a second overtime. During the second overtime, Virtus Pro were able to put on a strong performance. They would win the 4 rounds necessary to secure the map 2 victory, winning 19-16. Flamus put out a strong performance on map 2 where he got 31 kills, 21 deaths, and had a 55% headshot ratio. This would put the series tied 1-1, and the last map not banned was Inferno. In the first half of map 3, we would see a lot of back and forth between the teams. In round 9, we would see Flamus get an ace against Falcons to secure a pivotal win in the first half, and then in round 10, Flamus again would get another ace against the Falcons and show that he was the player to contend within map 3 if they wanted to win the series. In the first half, the Falcons would be up 7-5, but it could be 9-3 if Flamus didn't get the 2 aces needed to get those 2 extra round wins. In the second half, we would see the Falcons start strong with 5 rounds run in a row to get to match point 12-5. However, Virtus Pro would not accept defeat and would win an incredible 7 rounds in a row to put the game into overtime again. We would see triple overtime in the final map as both teams did not want to get eliminated from the tournament. In the first round of overtime, we'll see Flamus get a 1 versus 2 clutch defending the planted bomb to secure the first win. Overtime would go back and forth. In the third overtime, we would see Virtus Pro start to pull away with the lead. They would get a final bomb retake and defuse to secure the victory 22-20. Virtus Pro will win the series and continue to advance, but they would next have to play against Team Vitality.
Still a few matches left to be played in Group A, but let's go ahead and move into Group B. In the quarterfinals, we saw Eternal Fire face off against Liquid. The series showed that Eternal Fire is a growing team, and what was thought to be a close match turned out to be something different entirely. Map 1 would take place on Dust 2, which was Team Liquid's choice. In the first half, we'd see Eternal Fire put out a strong CT side, which wasn't expected as Dust 2 is a T-sided map. At the end of the first half, we would see Eternal Fire up 7-5, which put them in a great spot going into the second half on T side. In the second half, Liquid would win the pistol round, but Eternal Fire was able to win the next 5 rounds in a row to put the game to match point. Liquid did win a round to put it to 12-7, but Woxic decided to end this in a 1 versus 2 clutch with an op in a post-plant situation to secure the map victory 13-7. Map 2 would take place on Anubis, Eternal Fire's pick. The first half, we would see the same result with Eternal Fire being on CT and putting out a strong performance to put them ahead 8-4. Going into the second half, we'd see Eternal Fire put out a strong performance on the T side again against Liquid. On round 15, we would see Major pull off a 1 versus 3 clutch defending the planted bomb. We did see NAF on Team Liquid get a 4-piece defending the bomb site in a pistol round by Eternal Fire. This showed some life on Liquid's team to hopefully bring the game back, but in the end, it didn't matter as Eternal Fire would win the map 13-7 and end the series 2-0.
Next, we'll move on to the Mongols versus M80. The first map would take place on Dust 2, which would be picked by M80 after Nuke and Train were both banned. M80 would win the pistol round for a good start of map 1, but the Mongols showed why they were a rising team as they were able to beat M80's bye and not only win the following round, but also the next 5 to put them up 6-1. In round 9, Techno would get a 2 versus 1 clutch to defuse and win the round. At the end of the first half, Mongols would be up 7-5 as M80 were able to win the last 3 rounds of the half. With the side swap, we would see the Mongols on T side where they would have a rough start. They would lose the initial pistol round but would fight back in the second round in the half against M80's bye. The half would go back and forth all the way to the game being tied at 11-11. The Mongols were able to get their economy stabilized, which led them to winning the last 2 rounds of map 1 to secure the victory 13-11. Going into Ancient, map 2, which was picked by the Mongols, M80 would go into map 2, choosing CT side, which is the stronger side of the map. It would start off the half strong, winning the first 4 rounds in a row before the Mongols were able to answer back. Mongols would struggle to find any footing in the first half, where they were only able to get 4 rounds to M80's 8 at the end of the first. Going into the second half, M80 didn't let go of the gas in the beginning of the round, where they won the first 3 to put up the score to 11-4. However, the Mongols appeared to get their stride back, where they were able to win round after round and win 7 straight, which tied up the series 11-11. In round 23, we would see M80 Slacks pull off a 1 versus 2 and a pre-plant fight to secure the round and put M80 on match point. On round 24, Sin would ensure the victory for M80, where he goes 3 op kills defending the B bomb site, which would secure the victory for map number 2 for M80, going 13-11. The final map of the series would be on Inferno, the last map not banned. The Mongols would go into this map with a vengeance in their eyes after losing map 2 to M80. They would start on the CT side and would have a strong start, where they would win 7 rounds straight at the beginning with no answer in sight from M80. M80 would struggle to find any way to penetrate Mongols' defense and would only win 2 rounds in the first half, which put Mongols up 10-2 going into the second half. In the second half, we would again see Mongols continue their dominance in this map, where 910 would get 4 headshot kills with the Glock while taking the A bomb site. The Mongols would win map number 3, 13-3 in a dominating fashion, which in turn secured the series victory 2-1.
Moving into the Group B upper bracket semifinals, Na'Vi versus the Mongols. Map 1 would take place on Dust 2, picked by Na'Vi after Ancient and Train were banned. In the first half, we would see Na'Vi just absolutely take control of the map. In round 4, we would see Mzino win a 1 versus 3 on CT, where he would prevent the Mongols from being able to plant the bomb. At the end of the first half, Na'Vi would be up a staggering 10-2 rounds. Going into the second half, though, Mongols would battle back as hard as they could to bring them back into the game. Na'Vi would win the first round of the half, but Mongols would get the next 4 rounds in a row, showing some signs of life. However, it was not enough, as Na'Vi would be able to win the 2 rounds needed to secure the victory for the first map. The second map would be on Inferno, which was picked by the Mongols, and they showed us why. The first half, the Mongols came in swinging hard on the CT side, which Na'Vi could not find a way to break their defense or stop the retakes. In round 6, we would see Blitz pull off a 1 versus 2 to retake the bomb site and defuse it. And then in round 8, we would see Techno get a 4-piece while defending the B bomb site when Na'Vi tried to push Cat. The Mongols would put out a dominating first half, where they would be up a staggering 11 rounds to 1. Going into the second half, the Mongols didn't let up and would win the next 2 rounds to secure the victory of map 2 in a 13-1 dominating performance to tie the series up. With the series tied, we would go into map 3 on Mirage, which was the final map unbanned. In the first half, the Mongols would come in hot after their last map and would continue their streak. 910 would get a 1 versus 2 clutch on the round 2 during a push to the site. The Mongols would win 5 rounds before Na'Vi would be able to answer back in the half, but were able to answer back just in time. Na'Vi would tie up the first half 6-5 going into the second half inside swap. And in the second half, Na'Vi looked like they would come out with the first few rounds when they won the pistol round, but Mongols wouldn't make that easy and fought back. They would be able to win the following 5 rounds in a row until Na'Vi would be able to answer back to get it even to a match point. Na'Vi wouldn't accept defeat and battled back in the last 3 rounds. In the last round, we would see JL get 4 headshot kills pushing onto bomb site A, which would tie the map and push the game into overtime. In overtime, though, Na'Vi would put out a dominating end of the map and series, where they would only drop 1 round to the Mongols, winning the map 16-13 and the series 2-1.
With these matches concluded, we will have our first few lock-ins for the playoffs. Group A, Mouz and Vitality have made it through, but they will need to play in one final series to figure out the seedings going into the playoffs. Virtus Pro will then take on Spirit in Group A's lower bracket finals to see who earns that final spot for Group A. Group B, Eternal Fire and Na'Vi have also secured their spots, making it to the upper bracket finals, but again will need to play each other to see who gets better seeding going into the playoffs. Following that, Mongols will face off versus G2 to figure out who will get that final spot for the playoffs in Group B. That concludes all our Counter-Strike news from over the weekend. Make sure you join us on Thursday to see how the rest of those games play out and who makes it to the playoffs for the Blast Open. We are excited to see what teams will be seeded where and who will facing off against each other in those playoffs.
Thank you so much for watching today in esports. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and be back on Thursday.